Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Anthony, and welcome back to Let Me Be Frank. This is episode 43, and this week's Phone a Friend, we're just going to get right into it. She is from Sea and Stone Wellness. Give it up for Jennifer Herrera. Jennifer, how's it going?
It's going great. It
Good, good,
is
good.
New York City winter, so
Ooh,
happy to be inside doing this nice and cozy.
I'll say Massachusetts here, and yeah, it's probably not much better.
I heard there's a whole bunch more coming on Monday. Did you hear that?
No,
Yeah,
so that makes me sad.
sorry.
Okay, I thought yesterday there was going to be a bunch, and there wasn't in this area,
Yeah,
so I was at least thankful. I'm a lot more grateful about the weather now.
right.
But yeah, so let's get right into it. This is a question I like to ask all my guests that have been coming on. If you were a novel, what would the back of your book say?
Okay, so this is a this is an interesting question. I would say this is like the toughest question I've heard. So
Yep.
you're talking about like describing what the content of the novel would be.
Yeah, in a way, it's
Like,
kind of my own spin on a tell me about yourself, but I like to give the option for people to be creative. And I'm a writer, so that's kind of why it's worded that way.
right. So you're saying like that blurb about the author? Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
So my bio. Oh dear. Okay, so the back of my novel would say, I worked in an office for many years, and after that, I decided, one day I was going to just change everything. I decided to pursue a fitness, a Pilates certification, and uh, people were like, "How are you going to do that?" And I don't know. I was at the office all the time, and the back of the book would say, just on to the next adventure. Once that dam kind of broke, uh, on to the next adventure. And she lives in New York City with her dog and her 12-year-old son, and
Nice.
loves to travel. And it's been an interesting year for that.
Oh, it sure has. And New York too, unfortunately, is really not that I like to bring COVID up on the podcast much, but I've heard New York has been really bad with the virus. How have you been holding up?
um, I've actually just been fine. It's really interesting to find out how adaptable we are, how adaptable we can be.
Yeah.
I think part of the work that I do, which is energy work, I feel really like having those tools has been so helpful for me every single day in my attitude, approaching how I approach the day, and just understanding that we can get into this space where, oh, this is happening, that's happening, but everyone's going through it. We're all in it together. So it's I'm holding up pretty well. And New York has this, I feel like people have been, New Yorkers are always friendly. We get a bad rap. That's true. But I feel like even now people are so much more kind and helpful to each other, which feels good. I
Yeah.
feel like my neighbors that I didn't talk to, we see each other and it's like, oh, it's so nice to see you. Like appreciation really of everything.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
so easy. It's so easy to take that stuff for granted sometimes. So this probably maybe one very small positive out of out of the experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get more into your work because you said your work helped you with this, which I always tell people too, mental health and nurturing your mental health. It's so important and crucial to get through pretty much anything difficult. For those who aren't familiar, and personally, I'm not familiar with the practice, I've just kind of heard it in passing. What
Hmm.
is Reiki and how did you become a Reiki healer?
Okay. This is okay. So in a word, if I had to describe it to someone that had no idea, I would say Reiki is energy healing, energy work. You don't have to be sick to do Reiki. So I try to stay away from the word healing and I just say energy work. You could use it for de stressing, relaxation. It comes, so if you take the word Reiki, it comes from broken down Rei, which means spiritual wisdom, and Ki, which is life force energy. So it's sort of, you've heard of the laying of the hands on people when they're sick,
Yes.
and that's basically what we do. Um, but I do a little bit more. Reiki has a lot of, like, there are symbols and there are definitions of what it is and what it isn't. I do a little bit broader, like energy healing. Reiki is part of it.
Okay.
I would say my energy field. So do you believe in energy fields
I feel
beyond the physical body?
I feel like I don't want to say no. I feel like I need to be educated and more. I need to
Right.
educate myself more before I can make that yes or no conclusion.
So a lot of it has to do with, let's say, for example, you park the car and you're like, I kind of have a weird feeling parking the car here. Like I might get a ticket, but I think it'll be okay. And you come back and you have the ticket and you knew that was going to happen, right? Because energetically you felt it. Or when you just get a feeling, or you're thinking about your friend and they call you or text you in that instant, and that's just energy traveling. I relate it to just the way radio or frequency waves work. It's the same. We are frequency waves beyond our physical body. So that might sound a little bit strange, but I just know from my personal experiences and my clients that I've worked on how much better they've felt after I've put my energy there. And it's not that I'm doing anything to anybody, it really comes from a place of support. So if someone comes into me, they're stressed out, they've been working late, they had a fight with someone, they just lay down, they relax. I help them relax. And physically, if you want to get into the physical body, it goes into your nervous system. You know, when you start to feel like a cold coming on, you start to panic. Oh, I'm getting sick. Okay, your nervous system tenses, and then it sends a message out to your body and your cells, and you start to feel worse. So let's think of Reiki as the opposite of that. You come in, you lay down. I tell you to take a deep breath. What happens when we take a deep breath? Nervous system starts to relax. Once the nervous system starts to relax, then I don't actually have to touch you. Sometimes I do a little bit light, like softening so that people can relax a little bit more. But think about my energy field supporting your energy field. And that's what it is. You lay there for an hour. Are you familiar with the chakras? The energy centers in the body?
I've heard of, yes, I've
You've
heard
heard
of
of them.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that actually is how I started to get into this kind of work. I did not, the interesting thing is you do not have to be a believer. I was not a believer at all. And I was going through some things. I was not feeling well. I was having all kind of stomach issues. I went to so many doctors. They gave me so much medication. Nothing was helping me get better. I just was constantly sick. And I had this little voice inside that said, get a book on the chakras. I don't know where that came from. The next day I was at the bookstore.
Was it energy?
It must have been, right? I mean, and it was like you, I had done yoga. I had heard of the yoga teachers say chakra. I kind of knew what it was. I wasn't sure. So I got a book on the chakras and I started to read about energy work. The different chakras mean different things in your body and in your life.
Yeah.
I bought a necklace with the symbol of like where your solar plexus is, and that's the area that I was having trouble with. I got better.
Wow.
So when people, it works for me. It started to work for me. And then I read more and more about it. It was really interesting. I was feeling good. And I was teaching Pilates. And the way I came to it, I was working with one of my clients and I was stretching them out. And she said, you have a really good touch. You should go to check out like being a Reiki healer. I had no idea what that was. And I just signed up for a quickie, like 3-day intensive Reiki healing course.
Yeah.
And I would say that I was skeptical when I walked into that room and everyone was talking about things that to me, I thought, wow, that's far out. And they were like, oh, I feel this, I feel that. I'm like, really? I did the training and I can't tell you, like something happened. I started to open up. The trees look greener. I don't know how to explain it, but little by little. And I kept studying, I kept reading. I started working with my clients and I started thinking about the energetic work, not just like giving them a Pilates workout, which is a great workout, but adding a little bit more, like helping them to feel better. And I would find like, they were like, oh, I feel so relaxed. This is so great. And I was getting more and more clients that wanted more of that type of work, which I would save for the end of the session. So that was how I came into it in the beginning.
Wow. I mean, that's fascinating with how I feel like, yeah, you have to, like when it came to the issues you were having before, you have to do what works. And yeah, maybe that wouldn't work for every single person on the planet, but it worked for you. So yeah, why wouldn't I always say like don't fix something that's not broken type thing. So if it's a method that works, like use it, you know? It's a
Right. And the other thing I want to say is that so Reiki is a spiritual practice. It is not a medical practice, right? We are not
yes.
doctors. If you break your leg, yes, go to the hospital. You can't do Reiki for the broken leg. However, you could probably do Reiki to help the pain. You could probably do Reiki to help yourself heal faster. Like these are, it's a wonderful, they call it subtle energies. So that's, yeah.
I've had when you were talking about having the certain feelings, I've had like when you were talking about something, you feel like something was gonna happen, then it happens. I've gotten the gut feeling where you're maybe about to do something, but you're like, oh wait, hold up. Like I have that gut feeling maybe I shouldn't. Would you say that's like related to that, or is that like a whole separate thing?
I would say that's your intuition.
Into okay.
And I would say that it's really important to listen to our intuition.
Yeah.
I learned the hard way. So, uh, I spent a lot of my life doing, like I said in the beginning, I worked in an office. I did the things that I thought I was supposed to do. But I was sitting there like, this isn't interesting to me. And I really feel like everyone says, oh, they can't wait to get out of the office and like go do something. And I'm like, but I really feel like I can't be here. And I went to law school. I was educated. I had like jobs in the courthouse and in corporate offices and real estate, and nothing really felt right. And that was my intuition telling me. And I wish that I had listened sooner because I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And later on, when I finally took that jump, I saw things open up for me in a different way. Work, jobs where I had completely no experience and they shouldn't have hired me. They were like, yeah, okay, come on in. Right. And that was because it was the right thing for me. So listen to your intuition when you get that message. And if you don't, like later on, you're like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have made that call. I knew I shouldn't have parked there. But that voice inside is one of the things that I try to help people to, first of all, get in touch with. Sometimes I feel like we get a little bit clouded with work and all the stuff we're doing in the outside world, all our obligations, and we stop listening to the inside. And it's good to just kind of sit still a minute and figure out what it is that you need, and you'll be right.
Definitely. Yeah. I actually do. I try to meditate every day and use that time for, just because yeah, life can get so crazy. And I feel like we share that similarity of we were trying to pursue things because we felt like we were supposed to. I was going for my master's in clinical psychology. And
Mm-hmm.
because I had an interest in psychology, I liked it, but I didn't love it. There was a couple other things I've discovered that I just love or have the passion so much more for. But like you said, we kind of grew up being told like, yeah, we should do A, B, and C in order to be successful and happy. But yeah, I had to learn too that, success doesn't always equal financial gain. Like there's got to be a passion, there's got to be happiness behind it. And it's so easy for a lot of us to enter that hamster wheel and be like, oh my God, how do I get off? Like freaking out.
Right. And and we all have to do things in our own time. Like when I look back,
Yes.
I don't regret. I'm like, oh, I learned so
No.
much from those experiences. And
Yes.
that's a huge part of energy work with clients. Like if they'll come in and they're like, well, this happened, that happened, and just kind of taking the perspective. That's a big, like a huge word for us. Taking like, how are you going to look at this and saying, okay, this experience happened to me, but I grew in this way, or I learned that from it. And everything that happens to you takes you to the point where you are, the point where you should be.
Yeah.
So like some of the things that you don't consider were great fun, if they hadn't happened, you wouldn't be the person that you are, right? Some difficult, like this, we're talking about, you said you don't like to talk too much about the pandemic, but it's here.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like we said, what's come out of this, a lot of things that have been really tough for people, but also appreciation for little things, gratitude for just like your health. And I think what I've noticed with a lot of people around me is everyone's kind of slowing down a minute
Yes.
and
Yeah.
realizing that this is a good thing to slow down a minute. And I don't think any of us really saw that.
No, I 100 million% agree with everything you said. It's just so true. Yeah, we did kind of need that. I'm happy too that you are pursuing what you love as well. Like I'm happy for you because sometimes we don't have that moment to slow down and we might never discover, some of those passions.
Right. And every day is not like, I don't get up every day and I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And it's like
Yeah.
so good. I almost feel like I don't have a choice but to follow it. But there are days where it's tough. And
Oh,
uh,
definitely. Yeah.
I help other people like get to the space of, kind of like Zen and Claire, but I'm by no means, I'm still working on so many things myself. And I call it work in progress. Like we're all a work in
Like
progress.
that.
And I think it's never finished. Like you kind of, when you start out, you're like, okay, I'm going to get to the point. I'm going to get that job. I'm going to get this and then everything will be great. But life pushes you and you're forced to take it to like the next level. Something will happen.
I do want to just shout out, I appreciate how honest you're being because I've met certain wellness experts that I don't know if they feel this way because I can't read their mind, but they really will come off as like nothing's ever wrong, but we are human. And, we're, like you said, we're not going to be 100% every single moment of every single day. So I just want to say, like, I appreciate, yeah, you being so open.
Yeah. And I mean, even with everything that's happened this year, I've seen so many people struggle. So many like clients and friends have come to me and I've given them a big pep talk and, told, but then there's like the day where I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is not a good day for me. And just kind of like taking that perspective that it is one day, that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to just like sit down and watch Netflix today and just blow it off. But then tomorrow you come back stronger, you get a good night's sleep, you feel better. And just to know that's to ride the wave. There's going to be like these crests and crashes for everybody. So I don't have any answers, but I have a little bit of a map that has helped me, and different things work for different people. So, but in terms of energetic healing, if people are open to it, I definitely feel like it can be helpful.
Yeah. Let's get a little back into the questions where
Sure.
because I was curious because I'm assuming there's probably been maybe certain critics out there. What is your response to critics who don't believe in Reiki, and or what would you tell them to become more open-minded on the subject?
For critics, I feel like this is not my space to like push the Reiki on anyone. It's like
Yeah.
if it doesn't work or you don't believe it works or whatever. And I've had people that have come up to me and been like, so that's what you do? Like you get paid to do that? To like sit there and right? And I would say first of all, Reiki is really being recognized in hospitals. There are a bunch of articles, which I can, give you later if you wanted to, but like PBS and like The Atlantic have written, John Hopkins is using it and Yale University are using Reiki and they're incorporating this. And there's one, I think there's an article in The Atlantic that cracks me up. It says Reiki can't possibly work, or so how does it, or something like that. And it goes on to talk about the people that are critical in the hospital, like, oh, go get me that Reiki healer person or whatever. But it's just saying like patients that were on a level of pain from, let's say, for example, from like 8, they're going down to a 2. So it's helping,
Gotcha.
right? So I would say it's recognized medically as being, and there, whatever research you could give, somebody could also give you the contradicting research.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. The other part of it, I would say, come see me. So I had one client who I used to train her in Pilates. I'd go to her house. She had no interest. I mentioned a couple times, like, hey, I do Reiki healing, and she had a lot going on in her life. She just had no interest in it. It's like, give me my Pilates workout and leave. And she had some changes happen in her life. One day she said to me, you know, like, my neck hurts. I have this terrible headache, da da da. And we eased off the workout. And without saying anything, I started to kind of like, you know, give her a little like shoulder thing. She was lying down. And she's laying there. She goes, is this Reiki? I said, yes. She goes, it's working. And now we don't do Pilates anymore. Now we do Reiki healing. It's so that, and the fact that after that, she told me, you know, this is the kind of work you need to be pursuing full time, and like not teaching Pilates anymore, which I always teach a little. And I think movement is great for the body, but to take somebody who did not believe, and then they're meditating, and then they're reading books on energy, and they're educating themselves about it, and they're feeling it, that I would say to a critic, you know, maybe try it. And I had another client too, who it wasn't such a struggle. I was like, hey, do you want to try Reiki? And he's like, sure, without, you know, really believing at all. And suddenly the next time it's like, oh, I got a book on the chakras and I'm reading. So that for me feels really good. But in terms of if someone's going to be open to something, they are. And if they're not, they're not. And I'll say one more thing, which I was thinking about just yesterday when I was meditating. In my line of work, there's a lot of people say like, oh, do you drink the Kool-Aid? Right?
Yeah.
But I think everybody drinks their own flavor of Kool-Aid. So I can say like the meditation works for me, and the next person could say, I don't meditate. You know, I'd rather just take like Tylenol or whatever, and that makes me feel better. And then so there can be, everybody has their own belief system, I think is what it boils down to.
That's true. I mean, I've probably jumped a couple Kool-Aid bowls at a party. And but it is, yeah, it really is true. I mean, people can really believe something one day, and then the next day they're like, wait, or you know, like maybe they found something, you know, we were talking about like articles and stuff, and then they they start becoming passionate and into a whole nother thing.
There was an interesting article that just came out a couple of days ago. Do you know about crystals, like crystal healing stones?
I don't know a lot, but my younger cousin actually wanted that for Christmas, so I did get her a set.
Right, right. So an article came out and it said crystals, people use them, like the premise is that if you're not feeling well and you hold the crystal, it absorbs because it comes from the earth and it has a frequency, and we have a frequency, and it absorbs and helps you to heal.
Okay.
And this article came out and it said crystals don't work, but they sort of do. I'll send it to you so you can send it to your cousin. And what they did was a study where they had people holding fake crystals, and the people were saying that they felt better. So then you get into the whole like placebo effect, and it's just a mind trip. It's really interesting, right?
I had to, yeah, I had to deal with a lot of different studies and experiments with the psychology field. Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. And it makes you, because what it is too, okay, last reference, but there is a book that's very interesting called The Biology of Belief. And this is a doctor, Bruce Lipton. And what he says is that, okay, so your grandfather had to have hip surgery, and then your father had to have hip surgery. So you grow up, you're like, well, one day I'll have to have hip surgery. But what he found was that your thoughts not only affect your cells, but it sets off like biochemical reactions in the body where, oh, if you start to believe differently, the cells will behave differently, and you might not have to have hip surgery. Like you break the chain of illness in your family. And, you know, these are doctors saying this. So It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I like that. And yeah, definitely send me the articles after this.
Will
Um,
do.
we were talking email previous, and you had mentioned something about, well, we talked a little bit actually in this interview about it too, about helping individuals get through tough times. I wanted to ask you to maybe share with the audience some of your advice or expertise on, yeah, how you do that.
Can I actually wrote a couple of notes on this. Can I just take a quick, I don't want to forget anything.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh, whatever. Yeah.
so just okay, here's what I would say. Tough times. When the pandemic started, me, like human being, I'm like, oh, when this is over, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. When this is over, I'm gonna right. And then I finally got to the space where I was like, create, don't wait.
Oh, I
Don't
like that.
wait for, just like when the and it's the same thing we said before, like when I have that job, I'm gonna be like just be happy now. And if you have a tough day, that's okay. But then the next day, you got to just kind of get back on the horse. Um, I would say look into like, what are you thinking inside your head? So we all have those days where we start going down that like negative spiral,
Yeah.
and just take a pause, take a deep breath, and like look around. And one thing I do with my son, we get up in the morning, I say, like, what's three things you're grateful for? And if you wake up like that, it shifts the way you start to look at everything, right? So that perspective, um, when things are tough. Sort
Can I just interject one little thing?
Yes, of course.
Because the beginning of this year, I started doing the mantras, like telling yourself the mantras each morning. I remember before I did that, I'm like, well, that seems silly. Like I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm gonna tell myself these certain mantras or these certain things. It does make a difference. It kind of starts your day in the right way. At least for me, it does.
It's like going to the gym. You're not going to be in shape in the first day. But if
Yeah.
you consistently go, your body's going to start to change. So if you are consistently feeding like these good thoughts into your head, then your mindset will start to change. And I would say sometimes we start to get what works for me when I start to get into a really like bad phase, I say to myself, zoom out. So how can I just like stop being in my own thing, and who can I help? Can I call one of my friends? Can I make cookies and bring them to my neighbor? So I think when we feel like we're part of something larger, that helps you get out of your own little cocoon of not feeling well.
I love that. I gotta write that down. Because
Um,
yeah, that spiral, I think at least when I've been in that spiral, maybe other people can relate. It's so focused on you, and like
right.
you feel depressed, you feel sad, you feel angry, whatever negative emotion it is. So that is such, I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, just find like it doesn't have to be like change the world, or it can
Yeah.
be, but like any little thing that you can do to help somebody. The other thing, which I am a huge uh, fan of, hobbies, right?
Yeah.
So hobbies are really important, and I know a lot of people that they kind of don't. Netflix is great. I love it myself, but I do. I crochet.
Cool.
Was horrible at it when I started. I'm still not that great. You don't have to be great at it, but it occupies your mind, and it sort of takes me away from, I start concentrating on like what's going on with this needle and whatever, and then I'm not thinking about all the things that could stress me out. Little crafts, if I'm painting something, or they've got the adult coloring books, anything to keep you busy, and you'll start to drift away, like you get into a project. I guess it's like zooming out too, because you're away from yourself. I would say working out has been great, but also challenging this year because we're kind of shut in. And I think they're amazing. You can pretty much find any workout on YouTube for free. And
Yeah.
so many people are doing the Instagram live meditations and move. So I think a lot of times if I don't feel great and I force myself to work out a little bit and get the blood pumping, I feel better. And then also just being still, meditating for a minute, just clearing your mind like that. these are all things that have helped me a lot in this past year, and always, but especially in this past year where I feel like we've all needed it a little bit more. Um, yeah, so I'd say that's basically it. Those things to ride the waves. Keep it. The hobbies will keep you busy, and helping others will just, like, take yourself away from you. And just knowing, like I said earlier, it's, if you're having a bad day, this is one day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be better.
Yes, that's important too. That's another thing I've been telling myself, where it's a new day. It's like a
Right.
blank page for
And sometimes that one day feels like, oh, can you just please end? But then you get to the next one, and you're like, oh, fresh day, feel good.
Yes. So, what is one of the most important lessons that you've learned in life?
I'd say this is easy.
Okay.
um, Managing your energy. And I don't mean energy like energetic healing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can break a glass and I'm in the middle of cooking dinner and I get super angry about it and like, I've got to clean this up now and I've got this mess and I'm trying to do a mess. Or I could just break a glass and be like, I wanted that to go better, and just laugh. And that's what managing your energy is. You can decide how, you can't decide what's going to happen. Something's going to happen, but you can decide how you're going to, well, I would say not react, right? You don't want to be reactive, but you can decide how you're going to respond. And once you do that, it's a lot of, like, you could just turn it around and start learning to turn it around. Not getting, so you have someone says something, you can get super angry about what they say, or you can on the inside be like, oh my God, this is so wrong, I'm going to fight with them. Or you could just let it go. And even if what they said was not correct, or, not nice, is it worth it for you to get all aggravated about it? No. So you start to control, like, your energy and your thought process. That takes practice, that takes time. Like I said, work in progress, right? I don't get it right every single day, but when I get it wrong, I'm like, okay, how can I do this better next time? And you just move forward. And the thing is, we all know this person, like, oh, I woke up this morning and then the bus didn't come on time, and then, I was late for work, and then my bus. So, okay, all of those things happen, but you're getting upset about it just magnifies it. And if you look at it differently, that's really a lot of responsibility. It's like you have to be responsible for your energy. So it's a challenge for everybody every day, but the outcome is what, I have a better day because I don't let things, the older and older I've gotten, like, something happens, I'm like, it's fine. Right?
But
Just not taking it in and getting, like, so emotional about it. Just working from a space where you're a little bit more neutral. Don't give up. Just, like, keep going. Like, and that, I think, because we've had the last year, like, we've been shut. It's like the first month was okay. That now we're coming up on a year, and it's like, well, we just have to not give up. I'm not going to give up now. We made it this far. Just take it day by day, baby steps.
I think, yeah, and I think that's all really good mindset. Yeah, with the it's funny. It's funny how I'll say something like, "Oh, I wasn't gonna really mention the pandemic," and then we mention it a bunch of times,
Oh,
which is
I'm sorry.
no, you're good. No, that's okay. It's my fault. But but no, it is interesting because you just reminded me that, yeah, we would tell ourselves, or we'd hear on the news maybe, that the pandemic was gonna end during this month or this day, and it's still not over. And it's like when we do set those times, there's that disappointment. It's like, oh, so it's not over. And it
Right. And that's also like because then the pandemic will end and there'll be something else in your life that will, that you can kind of like harp on to. And that's okay. One of my teachers said something, and it's always stuck with me. And it was funny because it was a Pilates class. It was not a spiritual class, but I took it in a spiritual way. So someone was doing an exercise. She said, get it wrong to get it right.
oh,
And that's it. Like, we're going to make mistakes, but then you just learn from them and you do better the next time. So that, and also what we talked about, another important lesson, I think, what we talked about in the beginning, we'd said listening to your intuition, listening to that inner voice, which, you said we had similar paths and we'd gone down that way a long time. There's a Zen proverb, let go or be dragged.
Oh,
So
I like
just
that.
know that all these challenges that are happening, this is the universe is pushing you forward, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. That makes a lot of sense.
It might not be fun, but
No, it's not
you
fun to get dragged.
no, yeah, it's not fun to get dragged either, which you will. Like sometimes something's shifting or changing in your life and you're not really ready and you don't, but it's happening. So that's where you go back to that first point, perspective. How am I going to look at this? I could get really angry that this big change that I didn't want happened, or I can just have a good attitude and keep going.
No, 100% right. To wrap up our episode,
Sure.
unfortunately, what are your social media links or websites or any links that you want us to follow or help support?
Sure. So Instagram, I have Sea and Stone Wellness. So it's like the ocean, SEA, Sea and Stone Wellness. Um, Also on LinkedIn, Jennifer Herrera. On Facebook, Jennifer Herrera. I have my website, seaandstonewellness.com. That one undergoing a shift, so it might look a little more fitnessy, but I'm still doing the energy work, and it's posted there somewhere. So those are my links.
All right, awesome. Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
It was my pleasure. It was really my pleasure. I had a great time.
Awesome. And I want to do a quick thank you to today's advertisers, well, sponsors. I want to thank my producer, Monica Leigh, and that if you'd like to become a producer, executive producer yourself, you can go into, there'll be a bunch of links in the description for both of us, but there'll be one where you can do that and it helps support the show. And yeah, buy some merch. I even got the coffee cup today. And
Nice.
I want to thank John Moon too. He's important, that did the intro and outro music for season 3, which will be wrapping up soon, unfortunately. But I hope you guys have a super special, awesome day, and bye.